3 spine-chilling Alone in the Woods horror stories, Unexplained Terrors revealed in Volume 2. Emily, exhausted from late-night shifts at the diner, thought the woods outside her suburban home offered her family a glimmer of peace, a break from the chaos of life. But this escape turned sinister. The trees whispered her name soft at first, like a lullaby before crescendoing into a chilling symphony of voices that made her skin crawl. Shadows flickered between the trunks, and laughter echoed like a distant memory, unnaturally joyful and deeply unnerving. Her daughters, Lucy and Mia, seemed entranced, their innocent giggles mingling with the warped sounds of the forest, ensnared by an unseen presence. What enchanted daydreams were they indulging in? With each rustle of leaves, Emily's heart raced, feeling the weight of things not meant for her eyes. As she glanced around, trees leaned closer as if sharing secrets only the lost could understand, and she could feel the oppressive darkness like a shroud. Days passed, and her unease deepened, particularly with their neighbor, Mr. Carter, who always appeared at the oddest times, his smile wide yet unsettling. He lingered just a moment too long, his eyes glimmering with a strange light whenever they fell on Lucy and Mia. Was he merely a concerned neighbor, or did his charm conceal something sinister? She shook her head, brushing off the unease as paranoia, a side effect of sleepless nights. Then, one afternoon, the girls chuckled about finding Mr. Carter in the woods, but as she asked them who he was, they fell silent, their eyes darting away. Panic swelled within her. She needed answers. As she rummaged through the abandoned shed at the edge of the woods, she stumbled upon a pile of dusty newspaper clippings. The headlines screamed back at her: "The Carter family, vanished without a trace." Claire's blood ran cold. The chilling truth unfolded like a nightmare, but then came the day the woods demanded payment for their secrets. It started with a game of hide-and-seek. Emily thought she could watch her daughters play just a little longer. Lucy and Mia dashed into the tree line, their laughter ringing like chimes. But when those contextually innocent sounds faded, horror gripped her heart. The laughter turned into eerie echoes. The sun dipped lower, shadows thickening around her as dread gnawed at her insides. "Lucy! Mia!" she screamed, her voice cracking as the silence answered back mockingly. She rushed into the depths of the woods, called their names again, but everything echoed unnaturally in that claustrophobic space. Desperation clawed at her throat as she pushed through the underbrush. Time became unrecognizable, then she stumbled into the clearing, a graveyard of forgotten toys, marred and weathered, strewn like the last remnants of faded childhood laughter. Each bright color dulled like a lifeless memory. The air turned cold, and Emily felt it, eyes watching her, painted with malice and curiosity. What had she stumbled into? The shadows danced forward, but they weren't just shadows. Whispers curled around her in the twilight, and every instinct screamed at her to run, but then she heard it, the chilling, familiar voice of her daughters calling out, "Mommy, we're playing." But this was wrong. Something twisted the innocence of their words. As her pulse quickened and cold sweat beaded on her brow, Emily knew. She was not just facing the woods. Something darker lurked within them, yearning for her family. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she stood frozen, the silhouettes in the gathering dusk drew closer, and dread coursed like poison through her veins. The forest felt like a predator, its nature predatory and thick with tension. She had to make a choice: to rush in and uncover the horror that awaited her, or turn and run, risking what happened if she failed to understand what lurked within the shadows. Her heart raced, not just at the prospect of losing her children but at the sudden, sickening realization that wherever the woods led her, wherever Mr. Carter's watchful eyes lay, she might be too late to save them. Emily's breath hitched as the laughter continued, almost mocking her desperation. "Mommy, we're playing," rang now from all directions, a haunting echo that twisted around her, collapsing time. It felt as though the very forest was alive, laughing at her, luring her in further. She took a step, and then another, caught between dread and a fierce resolve. "Please, Lucy." "Mia," she cried, voice straining. Panic surged again in her chest, thick and sticky like syrup. She turned toward the shadows crawling closer, weaving through the gnarled trees that now seemed ancient and sentient. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. A silence fell like a heavy fog, and fear tightened in her throat. In that haunting stillness, she sensed movement. The trees around her weren't just swaying, they were breathing, inhaling and exhaling with a deep, unsettling rhythm. It felt like the start of a heartbeat, suspended in the unholy quiet. "Mommy, we're right here." The voice was clearer now, dripping with a sinister sweetness that sank hooks into her stomach. It was enough to compel her, but also enough to send a chill of alarm down her spine. Was it truly her daughter's voices or something far more sinister masquerading as them? Time dissolved as she plowed deeper into the woods, where the light hardly reached. The shadows grew thicker and she could barely make out paths through twisted roots and clambering branches. The air was suffocating, tinged with the scent of wet earth and decay that made her gag. She stumbled, almost falling, catching herself on the trunk of a tree that felt disturbingly warm, as if it was alive. It swallowed her scream. "Mommy!" The joyful cries danced like bright butterflies, flitting just outside her reach. Each call drew her on. They never sounded so sweet, but there was something wrong. Her mind screamed warnings, but her heart wanted to believe. She pushed through dense foliage, the branches whipping at her like skeletal fingers trying to pull her back. Then, she froze. In the glimmering dusk, she saw them. Lucy and Mia stood amidst the clearing, surrounded by twisted shadows. Their hair gleamed like spun gold in the fading light, faces bright in a sickly unnatural way. They turned to her, smiles wide, eyes sparkling not with innocence but with something far darker. "Look, Mommy. We have friends." Their voices harmonized, layered over one another, blending into an unsettling chorus. Emily's legs felt leaden. Her daughter's small frames looked impossibly still, captivated by some unseen marvel in the air. The leaves rustled urgently, whispering secrets she didn't want to hear. What do you mean?" she stammered, fear curling in her gut. Before they could answer, the shadows writhed again, slinking into shapes. Figures emerged from between the trees, faint and ghostly, but unmistakably human. The air crackled with undulating energy as the forms hovered barely above the ground, eyes hollow yet glowing with an intensity that made her heart race with terror. "Family, it's good to see family," one figure intoned, its voice chillingly soft and enveloping like mist. Emily's heart dropped. It was Mr. Carter. "Join us, Emily. You can play forever." He grinned wide, a rictus that stretched too far, his teeth glinting like knives in the dim twilight. The shadows around him seemed to pulse, reaching for her. "No!" she gasped, jolting back, but they were closing in fast. The faces of her daughters twisted into something foreign, dark desire hidden behind their smiles, panic surged like ice through her veins. There was only one way out, and it was deeper into the heart of the forest. But as she backed away, the laughter and cries warped into something darker, trickling down like rain of despair. She knew she had to act. Instinctively, she turned and sprinted deeper into the woods, branches clawing at her sides. Fear melded with a desperate hope if there was a way out. But with every footfall, the laughter was pulsing around her, drawing closer. She stumbled on a root, falling hard to the ground, breath knocked out of her. As she lifted her gaze, the shadows towered around her like a waking nightmare. Were they right behind her? What chance did she have of escape? In the distance, she spotted a fleeting flicker of movement, a small figure darting away, not far from her, just beyond the reach of vision. Was it Lucy and Mia? Or was it one of them, one of those cursed souls? A pang of hope gripped her heart, but was it too late? "Play with us, Mommy," the whispers returned, surrounding her like a vice. The woods were hungry, and she was just a heartbeat away from knowing how deep the darkness really ran. Would she uncover the secret hidden within, or would she become another lost voice in the endless cacophony? Emily's heart raced as she pushed herself back onto her feet. The cold, damp earth felt alive, pulsing beneath her fingertips. She looked around, breath quickening with every shadow that shifted in the trees. Was it the wind? Or were they there, watching her, those eager faces twisted in smiles that promised everything and nothing? "Lucy! Mia!" She shouted again, her voice echoing through the oppressive silence. The flicker she saw moments ago filled her with a desperate exhilaration, but dread lurked just beneath. If it was them, could they be saved? Or were they already lost? A whisper flitted through the darkness, brushing against her ear like a caress. "Mommy," the eeriness dripped like honey, drawing her attention. She turned, eyes darting toward the source, but nothing emerged, just the shadows shifting back and forth, laughing silently. The sound of rustling leaves reached her, growing louder, more frantic. Was it them? Or the shadows, hungry and restless? Emily took a hesitant step toward the sound, fear clenching her gut, fighting against the pull of an instinct she couldn't ignore. Then she heard it again, chirping laughter, lighter now, beckoning her further into the depths of the forest. Her feet moved reflexively, as though they knew the way. She didn't want to follow, didn't want to give in, but the call was irresistible. She stumbled over roots, skin scraped and bloodied, but she pressed on. Around her, the trees shifted. The trunks twisted and turned as if they were trying to guide her. It was a sickening sight. One moment solid, the next melting into shadows. Emily felt the ground seems to quiver beneath her. They were closer, those grotesque figures, inching towards her with every heartbeat. "Mommy, this way." The voices chimed sweetly as the figures danced just out of reach. She could never catch them, they were nothing but mirages, illusions to lure her deeper. She sprinted to the flicker she had seen. Emerging from an arch of low-hanging branches, she stumbled into a small clearing. It was darker here, yet a cold light seemed to pulse from the center. It illuminated the figures, a ring of them, chanting, faces turned inward. Her heart sank. The forms were familiar children, all dressed in tattered clothes, their eyes wide and fixed on one spot. But it wasn't joy on their faces, it was unending longing. The sight threw her back, repulsed and terrified. "Join us," they sang, voices mingling into something haunting. Each word echoed in her mind, hollow but alluring, a melody of the damned. She saw Lucy and Mia in the midst of them, their arms outstretched, faces lit by an unholy glow. "Mommy!" They shrieked in unison, a harmony twisted with the echo of 1,000 wails. "You promised to play." She wanted to scream, to tear them from the shadows, to shake them awake. But they seemed so far away, even as they reached for her. The circle pulsed like a heartbeat, echoing in the cold night. Every heartbeat sent tremors down her spine. A deep chill settled over her. Was this where hope came to die? Was there a place where light banished the darkness? She turned, heart pounding against her ribcage, and her breath crystallized in the air as an instinctive horror flooded her veins. She was losing them, losing herself. The flickering light beckoned her, pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat matched with her frantic pulse. "Mommy, don't you want to play?" They chorused again, and the shadows seemed to swell with excitement. Emily's mind raced. She had to make a choice. Could she stay and fight for her girls or escape and save herself, leaving them trapped in this nightmare forever? With no time left, she took a step toward the circle, drawn dangerously closer to the abyss. A paralyzing wave of fear washed over her as she felt the darkness reaching for her, hungry and insatiable. "Mommy, stay," the shadows whispered. As her foot moved forward, she took one last look at the glowing faces, which seemed both familiar and monstrous. Behind them, the darkness throbbed, insatiable, waiting for her surrender. Unbidden, she screamed. The woods roared in response, the trees cracking, laughter booming all around her. A storm was brewing, the winds whipped fierce, and the figures stumbled, but in that moment, under all the chaos, something caught her eye, a figure, half hidden in the shadows, watching with an intensity that froze her blood. "Help me," it whispered, even softer than a sigh. Was it one of the lost souls? Or a lost child? That flicker of hope ignited, and everything caught fire around her, a collision of despair and yearning. What would she choose when the darkness hungered with such might? Emily's breath hitched in her throat. The figure lurking in the shadows loomed closer, its outline wavering in and out of focus. She squinted, desperate to discern a face, a familiar sign of humanity. But thick shadows clung to the being, wrapping it in darkness as if guarding it against the light. Just when she thought she could glimpse a hint of eye color, it melted back into obscurity. "Help me." The voice had a faint echo, but the urgency felt real. She felt pulled, as if the sheer force of its plea could shatter the spell that held her captive. With trembling hands, she pointed toward the figure. "I'm coming," she shouted, her insides twisting with dread. The other children turned their heads, confusion scrawled across their small faces. Were they not even aware of the entity lurking within the trees? "Mommy, it's not safe," Lucy implored, her tiny face distorted. Was it fear, or something else? Something darker? "Stay away from her," Mia screamed, her voice slicing through the air like glass. The unity of the children's previous chant fractured, replaced by something chaotic. Before she could make sense of it, the figure beckoned to her again. Its hand, extended and grotesque, seemed to glow with a frigid light. A feeling of being watched intensified, the air thick with unshed tears. Shadows darkened further, crawling closer until arms reached from every angle, clasping at her, clamoring for her presence. Emily's heart thundered painfully against her ribs. She looked at the children in the circle. Their faces were like masks, a thin veneer over something beyond comprehension. That sweetness she had once recognized in Lucy and Mia was replaced with hollow echoes of despair. They were trapped, and their eyes screamed for deliverance. "Mommy, please," they chorused again, the dark melody rising in volume and intensity. Tendrils of mist slithered up around them, encircling their tiny forms. "Get away!" Emily screamed, her voice cracking under pressure. The chilling grip of the shadows tightened around her as she felt them slip between her fingers, threatening to consume her. A visceral panic turned her stomach as reality warped into surreal horror. Suddenly, the dark glow from the figure intensified, pulsing like a heartbeat gone rotten. It spoke again, the faint whisper turning sharp. "You have to choose, Emily. Join us and we'll be free." A frantic choice ensued like a thunderclap. The pulse of the cold air surrounded her, making it difficult to breathe. Would she condemn her beloved Lucy and Mia for a chance at freedom? Or plunge into the depths of despair, risking everything just to fight? With sheer determination clawing at her throat, she shouted, "No." The word ricocheted against the trees, an echo of rebellion. She took a step back, away from the dark and towards the flicker of vague hope that whispered to her still, but as she turned, the children's faces twisted into grotesque masks of anguish, their once sweet tones now layered with desperation. "Mommy, don't leave us. You promised," they cried. Just then, the earth quaked beneath her feet, and the forest roared in outrage, trees uprooting, vines snapping like whips. Suddenly, the shadowy figure lunged forward, its hand outstretched. Emily felt a sudden rush of cold embrace as it reached for her, no longer just a shadow, but a tangible entity that sought to drag her down. She fought against a force that pulled her, yearning to take her into darkness. She swerved, heart racing, adrenaline pumping, determined not to succumb. "What if I don't choose?" she gasped, feet stumbling over roots. What's waiting for those who refuse to play? The ground beneath her twisted violently, claws of shadow searching for her. She gasped as she staggered sideways. In her peripheral vision, she caught sight of figures emerging from the encroaching dark, a parade of lost souls, drawn to her indecision. They all stared, their eyes, endless pools of suffering, as if eager for release, or perhaps revenge. "Join us," they mouthed, their lips moving in discord, echoing the fate of many before her. Then, an unearthly wail pierced through, one shriek that transcended time, a cry that reverberated in her bones. It was neither child nor beast. It sounded like a warning. The trees seemed to howl in unison, and Emily's resolve was tested to the point of breaking. If she chose to fight, the darkness would engulf her. If she fled, she would leave her daughters behind. But behind her, the chilling laughter swelled into something maddening. A terrible choice loomed before her. Would she let go of this world, or fight against an enemy that blurred the line between reality and nightmare? And in that moment, the swirling chaos focused into a singular thought: there was no easy way out. With time slipping away, she made her decision, but the ground gave way beneath her, and she plunged into the dark depths. A spiral of terror awaited, and the darkness howled, anticipating her surrender. But as she sunk deeper into the unknown, an echo rose in her mind, a haunting question that might be the only key to her salvation. Who said you can't play with the shadows? Emily fell, spiraling through an abyss of shadows, her screams swallowed by the dark. The air turned stale and thick, as though she was breathing in the very essence of despair. She landed hard, each brutal impact echoing in the hollow space around her. The disorienting darkness pressed down, making every breath feel like swimming against a tide of dread. She scrambled to her feet, heart racing. Where was she? The passage of time seemed irrelevant here, a disjointed concept in a realm that twisted reality. Cautiously, she strained her eyes against the inky void, trying to illuminate her surroundings. Sounds echoed, a low hum filled with whispers, soft and sinister, weaving in and out of the dark. Each whisper felt like icy fingers sliding across her neck. Emily, the voice was chillingly familiar, but distorted, as if filtered through layers of pain. Was it Lucy? Mia? She couldn't tell. There was a warmth in the call, but it danced seductively alongside shadows, teasing her to respond. Where are you? She called out, anger mixed with fear, the echo of her own voice amplifying her isolation. The whispers stilled for a moment, and then erupted into laughter. Join us, Emily. A chorus of voices rang, painting the air with mockery. Those lost souls, still tethered to despair. No! She screamed, feeling the weight of their gaze, the anticipation pressing heavier on her shoulders. She staggered backward, eyes wild, searching for a way out. The shadows seemed to push against her, urging her to give in, to collapse into their cold embrace, yet within her fear, a flicker of defiance ignited. Emily felt a surge of determination. I want tea, she hissed, clenching her fists. I want to become one of you. With that declaration, the ground beneath her roiled as if struck, a violent tremor shaking the fabric of her reality. The walls of shadows pulsed, bending and shifting like a heartbeat, as if they reacted to her resolve. Run, Mommy! A fragile voice begged. She whipped around, her heart stuttering. It was Lucy, her tiny face lit by the glow of a cold light. Mia hovered beside her, both children trapped in a veil of darkness, their expressions a mixture of fear and hope. No! I'm coming! Emily raced towards them, but the space warped, every step taking her further away from the safety of their laughter and innocence. The shadows shrieked, the cacophony turning into a deafening roar. Hands reached for her legs, grasping at her as if trying to claim her, dragging her into the depths of sorrow. The children watched, eyes wide, as Emily stumbled, caught between the reality of their world and the malevolence that surrounded her. Mommy, help us! We're screaming but can't escape. They cried, their voices drawn thin by the weight of fear. An unbearable tugging sensation pulled at her insides, and she felt the urge to give in, to throw herself into that dark embrace. But the light of determination flared within her again. Stay with me, she shouted. You have to hold on. The shadows shrieked in fury, cascading around her, trying to drown her voice. Emily focused, fueled by the love for her children, that fierce, motherly instinct that surged with primal force. We're stronger together. I'm not leaving you. In that moment, something clicked, a thread that tethered her to them. Connecting, growing stronger with their shared fear and hope. The shadow's laughter turned shrill, drowning in the force of her desperate plea. You can't escape. They hissed, raging against the unyielding light, but Emily pressed on, visualizing the pull of her children's warmth breaking through the haze. We will fight, she declared, her voice resonating with newfound power. Just then, the shadows parted, revealing a flicker of light dancing farther ahead, a path twisted and narrow, leading away from them, then silence. The laughter faded, replaced by an eerily calm atmosphere. They paused, the shadows shying away as the path beckoned them forward. But somewhere deep within her, Emily felt a pulse of danger lurking, unyielding, waiting. Mommy? Is it safe? Lucy's small voice whined, uncertainty threading through the air. No, Emily breathed, looking back at the masses of shadow lurking just out of sight, poised and ready. But we can make it safe. We mustn't turn back. Holding hands tight, they steeled themselves and stepped forward into that glowing pathway, uncertainty trailing close behind. As they moved, a guttural roar erupted from the depths of the shadows, an angry, insatiable threat. We aren't finished with you yet, it growled, echoing around them like a death knell. The ground shook as they pushed forward into the light, but Emily couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this was just the beginning. Would they truly escape, or was this only a deeper plunge into the nightmare that awaited? Behind them, the dark horde lingered, waiting for the moment when she would falter. It would never be over until they trapped her, until they seized upon her true fear. What awaited them at the end of the glowing path? Would it lead to salvation or another nightmare? Only time would tell. The moment Emily stepped onto the narrow path, it felt like walking across a tightrope suspended over an endless sea of darkness. It glimmered faintly beneath her feet, lighting up with each step, revealing twisted roots and jagged stones. Lucy and Mia squeezed her hands, their small fingers trembling. Emily could feel the weight of the shadows hovering at their backs, the echoing growls still rumbling ominously behind them. Keep moving, she urged, her voice barely a whisper as panic clawed at her throat. The path narrowed even further, the light flickering like a dying flame, pulling at her resolve. Mommy, Lucy cried, what if they catch up? I won't let them. Just trust me. Emily shot back, but doubt crept in like a shadow of its own. Suddenly, the path dropped away, plunging into an abyss that swallowed all light. Emily felt her heart slam against her ribcage as she stumbled backward, scrambling to find her footing. The crunch of gravel echoed in the sudden silence, pounding in her ears. Mommy! Mia squeaked, her voice quivering. The pulse of darkness felt alive, wrapping around them like a predator closing in on its prey. Then the darkness shifted, rising up from below, coiling around the edges of the light. Join us, Emily, the voices called again, this time more seductive, more convincing. You know you want to, just let go. She turned, wide-eyed, fighting against the enticing whispers. No. I'm not like you. The anguished cries of lost souls ripped through her, filling her with dread. Their faces flashed in her mind, the children, her friends, all caught in the web of despair. With another step forward, the ground trembled again. Fractured stone crumbled beneath their feet. Run! Emily shouted, and they surged forward, hearts pounding in unison, their breaths quick and panicked. The light flickered wildly now, as if struggling to sustain its glowing presence. The shadows reacted violently, screaming in agony as they flared back momentarily. In that instant, Emily caught a glimpse of something lurking ahead, a grotesque figure shrouded in darkness, long fingers spreading wide, inviting their descent into night. Stay close. She clenched her daughter's hands tighter, not daring to look back. The figure's eyes glowed, pinpricks of malice in the murky blackness, and they surged forward, propelled by raw instinct. Don't let go. Mia cried, tears spilling down her cheeks, but the light flickered again, more violently this time, threatening to extinguish completely. Emily couldn't focus, her resolve faltering as fear threatened to drown her once more. Suddenly, they stumbled into a clearing, a dead end at the edge of an ever-expanding void of nothingness. Before them, a diaphanous wall of shimmering light, pulsating unevenly as if it held life, stood as their only hope. That way. Emily pointed desperately. But the shadows roared behind them, a terrible cacophony. The wall of light seemed to reach out but shimmered angrily, holding back from swallowing them whole. "Do we jump?" Lucy whimpered, her voice trembling. There was no time to think. "We have to," Emily said, emotions boiling inside her, fear, love, and a relentless determination. They edged closer, the darkness creeping in, and she could feel the touch of unseen hands grasping for her ankles. With the sounds of laughter and cries swelling around them, Emily squeezed her daughter's hands tighter. "On the count of 3. Mommy, what if it's a trap?" Mia's voice cracked, swallowed by the shadows that thrashed at their feet. "Do you trust me?" Both girls nodded, their fear mirroring her own as they took shaky breaths. 1, 2, 3. They leaped together into the light, an explosion of color and warmth that engulfed them in a blinding flash, but just as quickly, the world around them darkened again. The sensation they had felt moments before vanished, their landing softening into an eerie silence. When the light faded, Emily opened her eyes, disoriented, staring into an unfamiliar landscape, completely altered. The darkness around felt thicker than before, heavier. Pressing down on them as they stood in a shadow-drenched forest, the trees looming ominously overhead. "Where are we?" Lucy's whimper cut through the thick air. A low growl broke the silence, vibrating the very ground beneath them. Emily's heart raced, realization crashing over her like a flood. "Mommy, I don't feel safe," Mia murmured, her voice barely a whisper. Emily froze, eyes darting around, scanning their grim surroundings. Something was hunting them, something far worse than before. Light shattered at her feet, slipping through her fingers again. Behind them, shadows twisted and congealed, taking form, and an unmistakable face emerged, smiling with terrifying glee. What would they do now? Would it be the end of their fight, or the beginning of something worse? Emily's breath quickened as the unmistakable face in the shadows grew clearer. It was a nightmarish version of a clown, twisted and grotesque, its mouth stretching into an unnatural grin. Tight ropes of darkness swarmed and undulated around it, like a living curtain framing its monstrous form. Each grotesque chuckle that escaped its lips was like fingernails scraping down a chalkboard, making her skin crawl. "Welcome, welcome," the figure sang, its voice syrupy sweet but laced with malice. "So nice of you to join the party." "Run!" Emily cried, but there was nowhere to go. The forest pressed in on them, the trees seeming to shift, blocking the way they had come and closing off any escape. "Please, Mommy," Lucy squeaked, her small body trembling next to her. Mia clung tight to her, wide-eyed terror reflected in their innocent faces. Emily felt a wave of helplessness crash over her. They'd escaped one nightmare only to fall into another. The clown waved a hand, and the shadows twisted in response, contorting like serpents ready to strike. "You can't run from the fun. You're the guests of honor." It stepped closer, long fingers reaching out, weaving through the air like tendrils made of ink. Emily yanked her daughters close, feeling the urgency pulse through her veins. "Stay behind me. Don't look at it." But their wide eyes betrayed her. They couldn't tear their gaze from the horror before them. With desperation boiling in her chest, Emily shouted, "We need to find light. If we can just light." The clown interjected, mirth creeping into its voice, like poison. "You think light can save you in this realm? You haven't even begun to understand." The ground quaked beneath them, branches creaking, echoing like thunder. The laughter heightened, morphing into a cacophony filled with tormenting whispers. Emily could feel the presence of countless lost souls, echoing through the night, begging for release. She tightened her grip on the girl's hands, the weight of their fear shattering her resolve. "Follow me," Emily yelled, instinct guiding her to a gap between the trees. The shadows recoiled as she dragged her daughters behind her, the laughter of the clown ringing ominously in their ears, threatening to pull them back into despair. They pushed through the dense underbrush, branches clawing at their skin. The growls of whatever hunted them grew closer, reverberating through the crisp night air. Emily ducked under a low branch and stumbled, only regaining her footing when she felt Mia's grip falter. "Keep moving," she ordered as dread spread through her. The trees began to whisper secrets, strings of dark words wrapping around her mind, echoing with every twinkle of false hope. "It's not real, it's not real," she repeated like a mantra, the specter of the clown trailing close behind. Suddenly, they broke through into a small clearing, moonlight spilling down like a beacon of hope. For a fleeting moment, warmth enveloped them, and Emily dared to breathe a sigh of relief. "Mommy, look!" Lucy pointed. A door appeared at the base of an ancient tree, its wood aged and gnarled, the handle glimmering invitingly in the moonlight. "Is it safe?" Mia asked, shimmering uncertainty in her gaze. Before Emily could respond, the shadow of the clown loomed ominously, its smile wide, and it seemed to melt into the darkness, inches away from the light. "Whatever you choose, you'll never escape," it taunted, laughter ringing in their ears. Emily felt panic clawing at her throat as the shadows rose up again, trying to swallow the light whole. She grabbed the girls' hands tightly, knowing they had to act. "Choose," Emily shouted, heart racing hard against her ribcage. "The door or the darkness?" Time hung heavy in the air as the shadows writhed, waiting for their choice. Would they face the unknown behind the door or succumb to ominous darkness that carried their worst fears? The shadows pulsated, an angry tide surging towards them. Emily felt every heartbeat of her girls. There was no time. She glanced at the door, its handle glinting like a promise, a hope, but uncertainty curled around her like smoke. Could she trust it? "Mommy," Lucy whimpered, squeezing Emily's hand tighter. Fear radiated off both girls, their eyes wide with horror. Emily's stomach churned with the weight of her responsibility. The clown's gruesome laughter deepened, the sound unfurling like a black web around them. Such delightful tension. "You're making it hard to decide, little ones," it sang, each word dripping with malice. "Open the door," Emily urged, her voice frantic. She wanted to believe the light was their escape, but what if inside was just another trap? "Or will you dance with the darkness?" The clown crooned, its grin growing impossibly wide. It shifted closer, the shadows moving with it, lusting for their fear. Mia, trembling, suddenly gasped. "What if it's a way out, Mommy?" The urgency in her voice chased away Emily's wavering resolve. The clown's words slithered into her mind, taunting her with visions of despair and helplessness. "Then we take it," Emily shouted as if voicing her determination would solidify the choice. Her heart thundered against her ribs as she bolted to the door, pulling the girls along. The shadows fought back, wrapping around her legs, chilling her flesh like icy fingers. They reached for the doorknob together, 3 small hands and 1 adult united against the darkness. The laughter of the clown crescendoed, echoing in the air, blending seamlessly with the whispers of the night, drowning out their fears. Emily twisted the knob, and the door creaked open with a grinding sound that sent spikes of dread through her. Light spilled out in a warm wash, illuminating their terrified faces. Emily inhaled deeply, her instincts pushing her forward. "In!" she commanded, scrambling through the threshold, her girls right behind her. They rushed into a narrow hallway, the air thick and stale. The door slammed shut behind them with a loud bang that made them jump. "Is this better?" Lucy asked, her voice small. Emily turned to face her, only to see that the glow from the hallway flickered, casting shadows that danced ominously in the corners. Before she could answer, the floor beneath them groaned, shifting slightly as if the very foundation beneath them was alive. "Stay close," Emily warned, scanning the dim light for any sign of safety. The walls seemed to breathe, exhaling hot air that smelled of decay. She felt her skin prickle, a certainty settling in that this was no simple escape. "Mommy, what is happening?" Mia asked, her soft voice trembling as fear threaded through her words. "Just keep moving," Emily urged, pushing down her own panic. Around a corner, a shadow flickered, elongated like someone standing just out of sight. Emily's heart raced as she felt the air grow colder. "Turn around," a raspy voice hissed from the darkness. "Out of the shadows and into the light, huh?" The clown echoed mockingly from somewhere beyond the hallway, the sound bouncing off the walls. Emily froze, dread creeping up her spine. "We shouldn't have come here," she muttered. The realization hit hard. They had chosen their path, but it may very well lead straight into a deeper nightmare. Suddenly, a chilling scream echoed through the hallway, followed by the sound of something skittering just ahead. Emily's heart raced, and she felt a wave of nausea wash over her. "Mommy," Mia whimpered, eyes wide as they caught the glint of something sharp glimmering in the shadows. What had they walked into? As panic gripped her, the walls began to close in. The flickering light dimmed, and unfathomable shadows crept forward. "Run!" Emily cried, her voice desperate as they turned to flee. But as they stumbled deeper into the maze illuminated only by the ghostly glow, the shadows shifted, whispering secrets of eternal torment what awaited them in the depths of the hallway. Would they find an escape or face the wrath of something far worse? They sprinted down the hallway, each footfall echoing like a death knell. Panic surged through Emily as she glanced back. The shadows writhed behind them, dark tendrils stretching, eager to engulf her and her girls. "Keep moving," she urged, her voice strained as she felt seconds slipping away. Lucy's grip tightened around her hand, her small body trembling. "Mommy, I can't. I can't," she gasped, struggling to keep pace. Emily felt a stab of fear in her gut. "You can. We have to go." Ahead, the hallway branched into two, one path cloaked in Stygian darkness, the other flickering with dim light that beckoned like a siren. "Which way, Mommy?" Mia's voice quivered, slicing through the chaos of Emily's thoughts. "Light!" Emily shouted, practically dragging them toward the illuminated path. As they moved, the shadows surged behind them with a chilling, hissing sound. "Mommy!" Lucy cried out, but Emily didn't dare look back. She pushed forward, praying with each step that they wouldn't be swallowed by the darkness. Suddenly, the pair of doors lining the hall slammed open, one after another, as if something unseen was trying to break free. Emily halted, her heart racing. "What is happening?" she gasped, frantically scanning for a way out. Mia squeezed her hand. "Mommy, I'm scared." A loud thud resonated from directly behind them, forcing Emily to pivot. She caught sight of a figure emerging from the darkness, a gaunt silhouette with hollow eyes that burned like glowing embers. "We must play," it rasped, its voice a bone-chilling whisper that lingered in the air. "Run!" Emily screamed, and they dashed into the light. Just as they entered, the flickering stopped, leaving them surrounded by stillness that was suffocating. A room stretched out before them, walls lined with grotesque paintings that seemed alive. A gnarled tree twisted in one corner, its branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. And in the center, an old, cracked mirror stood, its glass cloudy as if hiding secrets. "Does this lead out?" Lucy asked, her eyes wide, darting between the mirror and the door they had just entered. "Maybe," Emily replied, the hairs on the back of her neck standing up. She could feel the presence of something vile lurking, watching. "Mommy." Mia's voice trailed off, pointing at the mirror. A shadow shifted within, contorting and cascading like smoke. Emily's breath hitched. Shadows weren't just in the hall anymore, they were here with them. The girls shuffled closer to her, and Emily stepped toward the mirror, heart pounding. It felt alive, pulsating with an unsettling energy. Then the mirror rippled, and a face emerged from the dark depths, distorted and horrifying. Choose wisely, it whispered, its breath a chilling echo of despair. Choose what? Emily whispered, fear lacing her words, unable to look away from the horror reflected back at her. The room seemed to pulse, walls closing in tighter. The clown's laughter echoed in her mind, mocking. Are you brave enough to stay or will you abandon them? Emily's heart raced as a sickening realization washed over her. They were caught in a twisted game, and the stakes were their souls. Mommy, what do we do? Mia whimpered, pulling at her dress, but Emily was frozen, paralyzed by a mix of terror and impending doom. The shadows undulated around them, whispering promises of safety, lies draped in silk. Time slipped away. What would happen next? Would they escape this nightmare or be lost forever to the darkness? A chilling wind blew through the room, whispering their names, dragging them deeper into its web of despair. The choice pressed on Emily like a weight too heavy to bear. As the mirror vibrated with an ominous glow, one question clutched at her heart with icy fingers: what would she sacrifice to save her children? Before she could respond, a scream erupted from behind them. Panic flooded in anew. The shadows were no longer just an echo, they were coming for them. Emily seized the girl's hands. We're not trapped. We can fight. She shouted, her voice shaking with urgency, but as they turned to flee, they realized the mirror was more than a mere reflection. It began to shatter, pieces of glass falling away like fractured dreams. What lay behind them was beyond comprehension. Were they stepping into freedom, or opening the door to an even greater horror? Emily's heart pounded like a war drum in her chest as the mirror shattered. The glass exploded outward, each shard spinning like deadly stars around them. With panic spilling into every breath, she pulled Lucy and Mia close, shielding them from the swirling chaos that now invaded their once feeble sanctuary. Stay behind me, she cried, her voice breaking as the shadows surged forward, hungry and relentless. They seemed drawn to the vibrant pulse of fear radiating from the trio. Just as she thought they were lost, a radiant light, fierce and bright, pierced through the darkness, cutting into their path like a knife. It arose from the shattered remnants of the mirror, illuminating the horrific figures writhing beyond it. The light surged forward, wrapping around them as if beckoning. Go! Emily yelled, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Hand in hand, they sprinted toward the blinding glow, feeling the shadows tug and claw at their backs, desperate to reclaim their prey. The warmth of that light urged them on, and with every step, Emily could feel the darkness diminishing, the oppressive weight of terror lifting, if only slightly. Suddenly, they broke free from the grip of shadows, bursting forth into the sun-drenched clearing of the woods. The world before them felt vibrant, every leaf glistening under the sunlight, every color sharpened in contrast to the darkness they had just fled. Mommy! Mia cried, her voice filled with wonder. Are we safe? I think so, honey, Emily gasped, glancing at the trees that surrounded them. The air felt fresh and alive, as if they had washed away the remnants of their nightmare, yet still, shadows lingered at the edges of the clearing, whispering with a dark voice that chilled her bones. Momentarily, that sinister laughter echoed through the woods, the clowns' taunts mingling and curling around them like a fog, but Emily clutched her daughters tighter, their hands interlinked. We are stronger together, she reminded them, forcing her voice to remain steady, even as tremors quaked through her. We faced the darkness, and we survived. Time felt suspended, the quiet of the clearing a deceptive calm. And then, without warning, the laughter reached a fever pitch. The clown materialized at the boundary of the light, its grotesque smile a mocking semblance of pleasure. You may escape, but darkness is never far away. You are part of the game now. No, Emily snapped back, defiance roaring within her heart. We choose light. We choose life. With that declaration, the darkness writhing just beyond the trees seemed to lose its grip, shrinking back as if bathed in the glow of her certainty. The clown's face flickered, its malice faltering under the weight of her fierce love and unwavering will. Run! Emily commanded, urgency propelling them forward. As they fled through the woods, the trees and shadows began to condense, seemingly melting back into the veil of darkness, a mesmerizing spiral fading away like a retreating tide. Emily dared to glance behind them. The darkness quaked and dimmed, the shadows struggling to find form. It was as if a powerful force blocked it from touching them anymore. "Keep moving," she urged, and their feet raced over roots and twigs, each step echoing with hope. They pushed through the final stretch of the woods, until finally, there it was, the shimmering light of their home, waiting just beyond the confinements of the trees. As they sprinted across the threshold of their yard, a gasp of relief surged through Emily, flooding her with a warm glow. But she knew this battle was only one of many. The darkness thrived in whispers, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Yet now, it held less power over her, for they had two hearts, three, if she counted her own, that would never succumb. With a deep sigh, she sank to her knees, cradling Lucy and Mia in a tight embrace. "We're safe," she murmured, the truth washing over her. "We're together." The sun began to set against the horizon, casting a golden hue over the day. Emily looked at her daughters, their faces lit with innocence and peace, the horror of the woods a stark contrast to the safety of their home. "Mommy, can we go play in the backyard?" Lucy asked, her eyes sparkling. Emily felt a lump in her throat as she smiled, the shadows that had threatened to consume them now a whispered caution in her heart. "Let South stay close and enjoy the light," she replied, a fierce love in her words. And as they stepped away from the terrifying unknown, knowing they had emerged victorious, she couldn't shake the feeling that true battle lay ahead. Still, for tonight, they would bask in the warmth of the fading sun, together, united, and above all unafraid. But deep within the darkened woods, shadows swirled, waiting like a secret whisper. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss the next exclusive story that could reveal what happens next. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and keep these stories alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what you just read, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Every true fan knows how important it is to support the channel.